The palace corridors had seen their share of whispered conversations over the decades, but on this particular morning, something felt different. The usual calm rhythm of staff moving between offices had been replaced by uneasy glances and hushed discussions. Courtiers spoke in carefully measured tones. Advisors carried folders marked confidential. Even the press office seemed unusually quiet, as though everyone was waiting for someone else to make the first move. At the center of the growing tension stood Prince William. Known for his measured approach and preference for keeping disagreements behind closed doors, William had reportedly spent the previous evening in a series of private meetings with senior household officials. No official statement had been released, yet speculation spread quickly through every corner of the royal estate. What had prompted the sudden activity? Some insiders believed it concerned the annual review of charitable expenditures connected to various royal households. Others insisted it was part of a broader effort to modernize palace finances and ensure that every publicly supported initiative aligned with the monarchy's long-term vision. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. Something significant was unfolding. Across another wing of the residence, Queen Camilla maintained her regular schedule, greeting guests with her characteristic composure. To outside observers, nothing appeared unusual. Yet those familiar with palace life noticed subtle differences. Meetings had been shortened. Several engagements were quietly rearranged. Private advisors seemed unusually occupied. The atmosphere suggested that important discussions were taking place beyond public view. Meanwhile, newspapers and commentators searched desperately for answers. Every cancelled appointment, every unexpected meeting, every delayed announcement, each became another piece of an increasingly complicated puzzle. Then another unexpected development captured everyone's attention. A television documentary revisiting the history of the modern monarchy announced an upcoming interview with someone who had once shared an important chapter of Camilla's earlier life. The promotional trailer revealed very little. No sensational accusations. No dramatic confrontations. Only the promise of personal reflections about changing times, family responsibilities, and the pressures that accompany intense public attention. Nevertheless, speculation exploded across social media. Would the interview offer new historical insights? Would forgotten stories return to public discussion? Or would it simply remind viewers how complex royal history has always been? Inside the palace, communications teams prepared for every possibility. Not because they expected scandal, but because experience had taught them that even ordinary remarks can generate extraordinary headlines when connected to the royal family. William reportedly encouraged everyone around him to remain focused on their responsibilities. "The institution comes first," one fictional palace aide recalled him saying. "Our duty is stability." That philosophy had guided him through countless periods of public speculation. It would guide him again. Still, another issue demanded immediate attention. The annual financial review had reached its final stage. For months, accountants and administrators had examined dozens of programs, charitable partnerships, and administrative budgets connected with different royal offices. The review wasn't unusual. It happened regularly. But this year's recommendations appeared more extensive than expected. Several initiatives faced restructuring. Others would receive additional support. Some projects would be merged to reduce duplication. The goal, according to internal discussions, was simple. Increase transparency. Improve efficiency. Ensure every pound was used responsibly. When portions of the review became known within palace circles, rumors spread rapidly. Some claimed William intended sweeping reforms. Others suggested long-standing traditions could change. Within hours, commentators transformed ordinary administrative discussions into dramatic headlines. No official decisions had yet been announced. Yet public speculation raced far ahead of reality. Senior advisors urged patience. "We should speak only when decisions are finalized," one communications official suggested. William agreed. He understood that silence often prevented unnecessary misunderstandings. Unfortunately, silence also created space for rumors. As journalists waited outside palace gates, another development quietly unfolded. Several respected constitutional experts appeared on television to explain how royal households periodically review budgets and charitable priorities. They reminded audiences that such reviews are normal administrative practice rather than evidence of personal conflict. Their explanations briefly slowed speculation, but only briefly. Stories driven by mystery often travel faster than careful analysis. Late that afternoon, William gathered senior advisors for what many believed would be the most important meeting of the week. Documents covered the conference table, financial summaries, future planning proposals, charitable impact reports. Everything would be examined carefully. No decision would be rushed. William listened more than he spoke. When he finally addressed the room, his message centered on responsibility rather than personalities. The public expects accountability, he said. Our responsibility is to ensure every decision strengthens the institution for generations to come. Several advisors nodded. The discussion continued for hours. By evening, tentative recommendations had begun taking shape. Not dramatic cuts, not sweeping punishments. Rather, a careful reorganization intended to improve coordination among various programs and reduce unnecessary administrative overlap. Even so, palace observers understood that any financial adjustment involving senior royal households would inevitably attract attention, especially when interpreted through the lens of ongoing media narratives. Elsewhere, preparations continued for the upcoming television interview connected with Camilla's past. The producers emphasized that the program would explore historical memories and personal reflections rather than contemporary palace affairs. Still, anticipation remained high. Viewers wondered whether familiar stories might be viewed from fresh perspectives. Within newsrooms across Britain, editors prepared competing headlines before the interview had even aired. Some predicted reconciliation. Others anticipated controversy. A few simply hoped for thoughtful conversation. Only time would reveal which prediction came closest to reality. As night settled over London, palace windows reflected the city lights while staff gradually left their offices. The day's meetings had ended. The paperwork remained. The questions remained. And somewhere beyond the palace walls, millions waited to discover whether tomorrow would bring routine announcements or a development that would dominate headlines around the world. No one could yet know that the coming days would test not only the palace's communication strategy, but also its ability to maintain calm amid relentless public speculation. The next chapter was about to begin. Morning arrived with reporters once again gathering outside the palace, eager for clarity after days of speculation. An official statement finally confirmed that the financial review was part of a broader modernization effort affecting multiple programs across the royal household, not a personal campaign against any individual or family. The much-anticipated interview likewise offered reflections on history and public life rather than sensational disclosures. While headlines had predicted dramatic confrontations, the reality proved far more measured. Even so, the episode demonstrated how quickly rumors can eclipse facts, and how every royal decision, however routine, can become a global story under the public spotlight.